All righty. Hey there, folks. This is Renessa Lane, and welcome to another conversation on creating your perfect work. If you follow me, you know I am all about equipping you to discover, design, and get highly paid to do work you love. And today, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, but we're going to be talking about that in a way that you might not have even thought about in the past. And so I am super excited about the guest that I get to share the platform with today. Not only is she gorgeous and beautiful and all of that, which you can obviously see, but she is a bad, bad, bad woman. And so let me give you the formal bio, and then I'm going to tell you why I really wanted to bring her to this stage. So Carolyn Hereford, actually, I did not ask you how to pronounce your last name.
It's Hereford. It's just, you were right there.
Hereford. Okay. And so see, and I'm not cutting this out. This is exactly going to be how
Bring it on.
But Carolyn Hereford is the thought partner that multiple six-figure business owners call when it's time for them to pivot. So she taps into 17 years of business strategy, sales, franchise experience, and she adds a wallop of creativity and fun through her business design workshops, which you can obviously see the creativity and fun just in her hair and all that other great stuff. But she breathes just a fresh life and profits into service-based businesses. So that's kind of a formal of who Carolyn is, but here's the skinny as to why I think that you need to hear from her. I was introduced to Carolyn by a mutual friend, and as soon as I learned about her work, I was like, she's the woman that I need to have on this series to really bring home entrepreneurship. And when we're creating our perfect work, obviously that can take lots of different forms. For some of you, you're thinking about just pivoting careers. For others, you are thinking about entrepreneurship and becoming a thought leader or bringing a message to the marketplace. And Carolyn just has a way of breaking that down so that you understand what it really takes to succeed, what to expect in the process. Sometimes it feels rosy and it's awesome and I'm leaving my job and this and that. And then you end up in a pit and the dream dies and you wonder what the hell happened. And so the things that we're going to talk about in this conversation today are things literally I wish that I'd known when I started. It would have saved time, it would have saved money, it would have saved tears, it would have saved heartache. So I want you to get your pen and paper handy because she's going to bring it, but she's going to bring it in a way that's real. And she's going to show us what are the things that we really need to focus on and invest in as we decide to grow and all of that as it relates to our business. So with that being said, Carolyn, I want to welcome you to the conversation. And I just want to thank you for being willing to share your thought leadership with the group.
I'm happy to be here, and you're a good salesperson because you got me on here.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes, guys, you just got to ask. You just got to ask. And you find someone on the other end who's got a huge heart and a great spirit of generosity, and they're willing to serve. And so that definitely is Carolyn. So I think the first question, because this is a conversation around or a series around creating your perfect work, I like for folks to be able to hear, see, and feel what perfect work looks like for somebody else. And before we actually started this conversation and started recording, I was asking Carolyn about a pivot that she'd made in her own, in her own business. And I was asking her, why did she do that? And how did you end up here? And, what were those decisions and so on? And she kind of gave me the skinny, and we don't have to necessarily go through that now. But what I'd love for you to share with folks is, how do you know that what you're doing right now is your perfect work? Not that that's what you'll be doing 10 years from now, but what makes it right direction for you today?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Okay, you have a gift.
Yay!
You have a gift. I can't wait for your own business talk show someday. Be like, it's that you got it going on. To answer your question, however, so the way I know it's my perfect work is because my clients are getting ridiculous results and I am having a blast doing what I do. And it wasn't always fun and I wasn't always good at it. And I talk to right now, I work primarily with private clients, helping them look at tweaks they can make to their already successful business in order to work less and make more. That's kind of the long and short of it. And so I've been doing this kind of work for 9, almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 months ago, my very, very first private client and I had a conversation. It was so fun to reconnect with her. She's hilarious. And I was grateful she even wanted to talk to me,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't the coach I was then
Wow.
that I am now.
Yeah.
And it really helped me see how far I've come.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but really, to answer your question, it's results. It comes down to what my clients are making happen
Mm-hmm.
when they walk out of a strategy session with me or get off the phone with me, off a Zoom or whatever. It's like, and it doesn't suck. It's just really, really
that.
And I love to play. I love to entertain. I love to laugh. And so it really hits on all cylinders for me,
Mm-hmm.
with the kind of work I do.
No, that's awesome. Something that resonated with me that you shared, and I want to highlight it so folks hear. Creating your perfect work really is a process, right? And for a lot of us, there's this idea of I've got to have it all right. It's got to be, the best it can be. And obviously, you show up in the marketplace with the best that you've got. Like, that's your responsibility out of integrity to have the best product or the best service or the best whatever version. But best is relative, and where you start is definitely not where you end. And so for some of us, listening in, you've got this idea and that it's burning in your heart and you're supposed to do it. And there's something to be said for just being willing to step out and take a big step or a little step or whatnot, and trust that as you step further and further and further, you get refined. But the reality is, even though Carolyn's like, I'm a much better, coach or whatever now than I was then, she was everything that person needed then. Right. She was good enough then for where they were then and what they needed then. And so for some of you who are thinking about coaching or you're thinking about your business, oftentimes what you have to offer to the marketplace right now is enough for the market right now.
Can I just add something to that? It's so important for women in particular, to remember that.
Yeah.
Because we always think we're broken or there's something wrong with us, or we need to learn this one more thing in order to be worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't. There are people out there, you can be paid to be you.
Yeah.
But really define what's you, and what value are you delivering to people in order to get paid for that. But it's so, you make such a great point. So I'm glad you said that.
So let's talk about entrepreneurship, because, and again, this is if there's a product or service you want to put out in the market, if you have a message that you want to put out, like, these principles can apply to anybody. But you have this concept, Carolyn, about the evolution of the entrepreneur.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think everybody needs to hear that. Where did that concept come? Where did it come from? Where did the brainchild come from? And then we'll talk about what the different phases are, but kind of give us some context around that.
Yeah. I wish I could say that I was self-aware enough at the time to say that it was based on my own experience. Mm-hmm. But really, it was the experience I watched my clients go through and the patterns that I started seeing. Mm-hmm. And only then did I say, oh yeah, I've been through that too. Yeah. So really, I'll explain what the entrepreneur's evolution is, just to put it into context and frame it up for those of you who are listening. Mm-hmm. And then we can talk about, whatever details you want within that. But there are 4 growth phases in the evolution of entrepreneurs. And the first one, and there are 3 elements that factor into each phase. So let's talk about those elements. The first one is your morale. And that's how do you feel about your situation at mm-hmm. that time, mm-hmm. during that phase? The second is, what kind of money investments are you putting into your business? And then the third element is, what are you getting out? Mm-hmm. How much money are you getting out of your business? And so when you think in terms of that first growth phase, when you're starting out, think about it. Your morale's high. Mm-hmm. You're probably putting some money into your business but you don't have a lot of money coming in quite yet.
Yeah.
You may not have mastered like how to price your services or how to market or how to close a deal, you know? So that's going to be low, the sales. And so what happens, you're going along in phase one and you're like, I thought my revenues would be up here, not down here. And that's often when people hit the panic button and they're like, I thought I would have more clients by now. What am I going to do? And they start looking around for all the answers. Like, what is wrong with me? And the panic button to me is when the investments that they're making, that second element, start to go up because they think there's something wrong. And they're looking for a solution, any solution. So they open up their inbox and they're like, oh my God, you know, so-and-so has exactly what I need right now. I'm going to do it. And everything sounds good. And, you know, so there's a lot of spending often going on. And at the same time, morale is starting to drop because you're second guessing, like, did I make the right decision? And revenues still aren't going up the way at the rate that you had hoped. So in that second growth phase, it starts to get a little tenuous.
So that's phase two. Right?
That's phase two. And then what happens is phase three, people go into phase three, and it's what Seth Godin would call the dip. It's when all of a sudden those three elements converge. Your revenues still aren't where you want them. You rein in all spending, and your morale is absolutely in the tank. You're just like hanging on for dear life. And this is the dark night of the soul. This is when you're like, what have I done? I put all this money into my business in this time, and I really thought it was going to work. What happened? What's going on? And so it's really a time for reflection and contemplation of, am I going to commit or am I going to concede? And, you know, it's okay if someone decides it's time to give up and just let it go and go back and get a job or go do something else. That's fine. There is no shame in it because you did your best with what you knew, you know, with what you knew. And the other path when you're in that third growth phase, the dip, is you commit. And this commitment is a little different than the first phase and the second phase, because it's you can't make decisions from a point of panic or desperation. It has to be like, if I'm going to put another dime into this business, it better pay off. Now, that's also a little bit unhealthy, because when someone says this can't fail, it's going to fail. Like, good luck with that. It's going to fail, because your definition of failure is probably a little messed up. So, but it's getting really clear. It's like, why am I not getting the business? It's not because my photos aren't great, or, you know, that I have a selfie instead of a runway shot with a plane. Like you have to get really real. And the things that I recommend people look at when they're looking at, do I commit, is looking at, what is your business model? How are you packaging and pricing your products and services and programs, however you want to call it? I work with only service-based businesses. So soap makers, I'm not for them. But it's like looking at that. Have you really given weight and thought into, are you sure that your business model is set up right? You know, a lot of people want to set up a group program, and they spend this time like right out of the gates trying to create a group program, for example, or a membership program, but they don't have the chops for it, or they don't have enough content, or whatever it is. So
let me interject here. Not interject, let me pause here, because I want to get into what, you know, how should we begin to think about the business if we're going to commit, because there's a lot of folks that are listening and they're at that dip place, and there is that conversation in your head, do I hang this up, you know, or do I, you know, so I want to make sure we give due diligence to that. But let's go back to the phases and we'll talk a little bit about each one of them as well, but in your experience, are all of these phases inevitable? Like everybody wants to be in phase 4. Like everyone wants, revenue to be soaring and life is good and they're looking great and, blah, blah, blah. But phases 1, 2, and 3, are they kind of rites of passage? Or is it you kind of screwed up from the get-go and there's ways of being able to shortcut this process?
Great question. And yes, you go through all the phases. In fact, when I talk with a lot of clients who are multiple 6 and 7 figure earners, and I say, what phase do you think you're in? They'll say, I go through every phase every day, multiple times a day.
Wow.
It's just that we're doing it at a different speed the more we progress, because we're moving through the decisions and doing things differently and at a much different pace. Mm-hmm. So one person could start off their business from scratch, and it might take them 6 months to get to growth phase 2. Mm-hmm. The person who started their business on the same day might get there in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So like everybody has their own pace. Okay. And yes, you can't skip the dip, because that's really what the question is.
That is the question.
You can't skip the dip. It is a rite of passage. It's exactly what it is. And it's not a terrible thing for it to happen, because it's a time to get honest with yourself and take stock and say, okay, maybe my ego is driving some of those decisions. Like, did I really need that photo shoot, or did I really need that new website? Probably not. Mm-hmm. I have a colleague, a friend, we were in a mastermind together 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. She has a multiple 6-figure business and she's never had a website. It's all been referral. Mm-hmm. So when someone's like, well, I need a website, I'm like, no, you don't. Mm-hmm. Kelly can do it. You can do it. Yeah. Like, so that is, so to answer your question, no, we don't skip it. And we go through multiple times. Interesting. The longer you're in business, the more you're going to go through it. And hopefully your dips get less dippy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your panics get less panicky, mm-hmm. And you learn to smooth it out a little bit, but you're going to go through it. Even if you're offering and, you're a seasoned entrepreneur and you're offering a new product or service, your sales might start off low. You might not get your messaging right on something. You might make a misstep somewhere with that new offer. Mm-hmm. So it's going to happen, mm-hmm. but you'll know how to get out of that dip more quickly. And actually, one of the things that the seasoned entrepreneur knows to do often is, if they can't figure out how to get through it quickly, they know to come to someone like me and say, I need a thought partner on this. Yeah. What do you see? Where are my holes? How can we tweak this to make it more productive, more profitable, more efficient, so. Yeah.
What's trying to think of where I'm trying to go here, because for a lot of folks, there's such a fear of, am I going to go broke? Do I have to have this mess to message story? And, so on and so forth. And when you talk to so many entrepreneurs, everyone's got their mess to message story. It's in, varying degrees and, all of that. But for the person who's kind of sitting on the sideline and saying, man, there's something that I really want to bring to the market, it's a service-based business or a message or, whatever. What do you say to them when the fear of what you're talking about, the dip, can be so palatable? Like, these folks have families, they may have kids, they may have mortgages, they may have all kinds of things going on, right? And so there's a risk associated with stepping out and creating your perfect work, especially if you're leaving a lifestyle that is comfortable financially or whatever, right? I might be miserable, but I still am comfortable. There's something to be said about that. So what do you say to them about the mindset that needs to be in place to be able to navigate the journey?
Yeah. So it is interesting, because I don't think owning a business or starting a business is for everybody.
I agree. Yeah.
Because there are some people who cannot handle the unknown, can't manage the fear, can't stop worrying, are afraid of failure or success or whatever. Like, they just can't deal with it. And if that's the case, I am not going to try to talk anybody into being a business owner.
It is fine.
Just go get another great paying job. Go you. For the people who are like, well, I'm afraid, but I still want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually because there is something calling them, something deeper calling them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, when I started my first business 17 years ago, I had a nice, cushy business and I was doing well. I had just written a book. I was really well known in my industry. I was speaking everywhere. I had tons of referrals, tons of business. And then one day I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like literally a week after my book was published, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there was a much deeper calling, like, Carolyn, rise up. You've got more in you. Okay, good. That chapter's over. Like, next.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that drive, knowing I had more to contribute, is something most people have.
Yeah.
So you get to weigh. Mm-hmm. Do I want to make the contribution,
mm-hmm.
get my message out there, or do I just want to be afraid?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just listening to The Power of Now, Eckhart, again this morning, and I love when he talks about when something happens that you don't like, how do you look at it and say, what's the lesson in this? How can I not resist this? And so that's how I want all failures. And all that didn't work the way I wanted. My launch failed or whatever. Okay, so what are you supposed to learn from this? What do you get to learn from this? Mm-hmm. And I love that approach, rather than resisting the failure or the fear, just kind of leaning into it a little bit.
Yeah. And I want to make sure that folks aren't on the call like, oh my gosh, it's just going to be so horrible, and I'm waiting for my my moment of whatever. Yes, you'll go through trying times, obviously, and there's ways of being able to minimize that impact. Like, not everybody goes broke, not everybody loses their home, not everybody has if you're wise about understanding that there are different phases through this process, but then B, knowing in advance, how do I begin to think about this? Like, how should I even think about my business? It's kind of like when you're on an air, like for me, I went through a period of time of probably 5 years where I was afraid to fly. And I've been flying since I was 4 years old, like across, the oceans and whatnot.
Military kid, yeah.
Military kid. But so I'd gotten to a place where for some reason I had this anxiety around flying. And, but I'd get on the plane anyway, because I always had to be on a plane. So, but the difference, like if the pilot gets on the intercom and he says, hey, we're going to experience turbulence in the next 15 minutes. So, go to the bathroom, whatnot. I'm going to turn the fashion seatbelt on. It should last about 20 minutes and then we'll be good to go, blah, blah, blah. I'm cool with that because I know
the expectation is set.
What the expectation is. And so I'm not freaking out when it happens. However, when I'm sitting there reading my Kindle or whatever, and the plane dips like it did going to Puerto Rico, and the flight attendants are bugging out, and the crash cart is slipping, I got a problem with that, right? Because I wasn't expecting, I wasn't prepared, and I didn't have safeguards, around that. And so what we're talking about here are kind of the safeguards, like understanding that there's some turbulence as it relates to how you build your business. However, if you're thinking about certain elements in advance, then the decisions that you make in those different phases are going to be optimal decisions that minimize the dip. Is that fair way to put it?
100%. And I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning. You need your own coach. You are so good at interviewing and dissect. Like, you get right to it, sister. Oh my gosh.
Good. Well, you'll be the one of the first guests. So let's start to think about that, because when I was phase 1 and I was fired up, it's like, oh, let me go get this pretty website and get these pretty business cards. And I think the first business card had like a high heel on it for high heel investments or something just ridiculous. I had 16 domain names and URLs and emails and, all that kind of stuff. And then you are right. You then go in and you're investing in all of these people, all of these gurus, and all the strategies work. They just may not work for you.
Right.
If you don't understand what it is you're trying to build, who you're trying to serve, what you're trying to do in the market, to figure out, is this the strategy that's right for me? So let's start to talk about, you talk about 5 pillars that we should invest in order to be able to make decisions around our business. And the way it was positioned before, it was like, okay, when you're at the dip and you're at the moment to commit, these are the things you need to think about. I would assert that if you have the wisdom to think about those things at the beginning of the business, it's going to serve you well. So let's talk about what those 5 pillars are and how they influence the decisions we make in entrepreneurship.
Perfect. And I'm just going to also point out before I answer that is all of this will get you faster to growth phase 4, which we haven't even talked about, which is when you finally are making money because you're focused on the right things in your business and they're set up the right way. So I 100% love this question. And anyone who's starting a business or is in the process of business and things aren't working, there are these 5 pillars that absolutely will change the way you look at your business. So I'll give you high level what the 5 things are, and then I'll go a little deeper for each one. So the first is business model. The second pillar is thought leadership. The third is marketing. The fourth is sales. And there is a difference between marketing and sales, which I'll break down in a bit. And then the 5th one is what I call time, mindset, and priority optimization. It's really mindset and priority optimization. And so diving into each of those 5 things from a little, not granular, but a little more explanatory way. Your business model is really the products and services that you offer. It's how you price them. It's how you package them. And I don't mean like what color is the logo on it. I'm talking like, is it a high touch offer where, I'm trading hours for dollars. So if I'm talking to you, coaching you, or giving you a massage or giving you advice of some sort, I can't be doing the laundry, putting in the laundry while I'm on the phone with you. That's high touch. It's like a singular focus and I can't be doing anything else. Or a business model you might have medium touch offers that are one-to-many. So this right here, the people who are listening to this is a one-to-many and actually not even, like if we had a live audience, it would be one-to-many. Really, this is a low touch because we're creating it once and then people can listen to this interview over and over and over again. And tens of thousands, millions of people can listen to this. So low touch is create it once and then let the machine do its work. Medium touch is if we were doing this in a studio audience live, that would be medium touch. And high touch is I'm on the stage by myself, or not on the stage, but I'm sitting down with one person. And so it's looking at, that's what I really consider to be packaging. And it's like, how much time does someone get? What do they get for it? How is it priced? What's the next step? So it's looking at how, and I call your products, programs, services, I call them your offers. And so your business model is looking at what are the different offers you have to help people? How, is it free? Is it $1 million? Is it, and why are you doing it? How does this one thing fit into the rest of your other products and services, your other offers? So that's what your business model is. And this is, most people start off where it's going to be high touch, trading hours for dollars in many cases. And that's okay. Because you talk about a learning curve, it really helps you learn how to market, how to sell, how to get those clients. And then when you have those clients, it helps you start to see like really what your process and what their patterns are. And you can use that to create more leveraged programs like medium and low touch things. So that's the business model. The second pillar is thought leadership. So, if if we want to be seen as an authority, as a credible source, what are we doing to position ourselves as a thought leader? So something like this puts you in a position as it shines a light on you as a thought leader, because you're bringing together brilliant minds and helping people, and they're looking to you as, boy, shoot, Vanessa's really got it going on. That's a thought leader. A thought leader has a point of view about something. And so, and they have it, like, you have a very specific purpose for pulling together the experts that you have for this. And not only are you a thought leader for bringing those people together, but each one individually probably has a thought leader position of their own. So you want to know, like, what do you stand for? And then the third pillar is, how do you market yourself as a thought leader? So people say, I want to do business with her. I am interested in that program she offers. So that's the marketing. Can be how you work social media. It can be your newsletter. It can be doing talks. It can be a lot of things. And this is something a lot of people don't know, and I don't really want to complicate it, but your marketing is also part of your business model.
It is,
so
indeed.
If you do talks, that would go into your live talks, that would go into a medium touch line on your business model. Either free or paid, it doesn't matter. That's where they belong. So really understanding how you're going to market so you get the right prospects and clients. Sales is, what's your approach to the sales conversation? So if you're selling a $50 thing, people can probably just buy it without talking to you. But if you're selling a $5,000 or $15,000 or $50,000 thing, you need to know how to have a sales conversation. What's your approach going to be? How is that going to go down? And so I have clients who have multiple six-figure businesses who have never had to have a sales conversation before, because none of their stuff required the kind of investment that, you know, we might create for them. And so that's a really important piece, and you can't avoid sales. A lot of people will say, oh, I want to hire a salesperson. You have to learn how to sell your own products and services before you can hire anyone else to do it.
That's true.
And then the fifth pillar that will really help someone starting out, or anyone in any phase of the entrepreneur's evolution, is really that mindset and priority, optimizing that. And I have found that when you get those first four pillars right, the fifth one kind of falls into place. Like,
interesting.
Your mindset kind of is like, oh, I didn't just like skim through and ignore this marketing thing. So it's not a problem because I've got it. I've got it handled. So it's not raising like, you know, an emergency where it takes away from something I'm doing that's important. Or it doesn't mess with my mind because I'm so disappointed. We all have mindset stuff. We all have, you know, but, and I'm really fascinated because the mindset stuff is a little different depending on where you are, with each pillar and with each phase, but it's really fascinating. So if you can pay attention to those five pillars when you're starting your business, you're going to be so far ahead of the game. And some of that stuff can be done through self-study, some of it through programs. But what I find people do is they go by the how to do Facebook ads thing, like right away. And it's like, you don't even know what you're selling. You don't even know how to close a lead if they come in. Like, you're charging too much or too little. You're trying to go straight for the sale when you should do this for, like, so there's so many problems with that. And that's where people really kind of get their undies in a bunch.
I love the categorization, because what's great about it and what I advocate when it comes to perfect work is, again, all the strategies work. They all do. Like, you can find someone who makes a gazillion amounts of dollars on Facebook ads. They're also paying a gazillion amounts of dollars for Facebook ads too. But they succeed in Facebook ads. People who do Google ads and SEO. There's people who speak, paid speakers. There's people who speak for free. There's people who, you know, do all kinds of everything. And you can make money on all of those strategies. But it's important to understand what strategy is going to work for me. What is my natural, you know, authentic personality? How do I like to engage? there are some folks who, from a coaching perspective, hate to do one-on-one stuff. They're like, I'm not doing that high touch. They're all about the group, or they're all about, whatever. Or you want products that are going to be evergreen and that kind of sell themselves on webinars and all that. You can do that as well, but you're also going to be playing on volume. And so it's about, now you've got to get more people, because it's a volume game, and so all of it works, but it's beginning to, to dive in and say, who am I? What impact do I want to make? How do I want to deliver? Because you don't necessarily have to be doing Facebook Lives on social media in order to get your clients, if that is just not your thing. Just not your thing.
Right.
And so you get to choose, but it's about being deliberate on that choice. So then you can know which investments make sense for you and which ones don't. Like
and the impulse, like buying into the, oh my God, the countdown timer, there's only 6 hours and 12 minutes left, I have to hurry. That marketing is very effective, and it's also very destructive.
Yeah.
To people's financial well-being.
Yeah. And so we have other conversations in this series around being able to kind of figure out where you want to play and who you want to serve and all that. Those questions play into what your thought leadership is going to look like, what your marketing strategy is going to look like, what your sales, like all of those things come into play when the foundation is set. And oftentimes we're chasing the money, or we're chasing the dollar, and we're chasing the fastest way to the cash without realizing whether or not that's the fastest path for us. And then we end up making all these investments in phase 2, and then we don't get the results, and we think it's that the vehicle is broken. The vehicle's fine. It's the fact that it may be misaligned. And it doesn't even mean that you're broken. Like, oh my gosh, everybody else was able to do it and I wasn't able to make money with this and something's wrong with me. No, that may not be the case. It just may be misaligned. And so these elements become important.
Right. And it's really, and you know what? It's not the end of the world if you end up trying something and it doesn't work. Don't make it the end of the world.
Indeed.
It's your choice how you're going to deal with it. So I have played the victim many times where I'm like, I can't believe I paid $1,500 for that program, and all it did was like piss off my list, and now they won't open my emails anymore. Because, honestly, and I'll sit and point fingers, and it's like, but it's working for other people. So it's just not how people want to hear from me. And I think it's also very important, because you do a lot of work with like career, and it's. All of us have done Myers-Briggs and DISC and Colby, and like a lot of those, we're wired in different ways. And so what works, it goes to your point, like learn from the things that you think are mistakes instead of playing the victim. Like I have done so well for so many years. I finally saw what I was doing and I was like, oh my gosh, stop.
But it's important. Like if there's nothing else we take from this conversation, those 5 pillars are critical. And it's understanding it in the light of what you want to deliver to the world and how your customer wants to engage with you. Like I remember spending thousands of dollars. I invested in a coach who, and her claim to fame in her business was Facebook ads. And that was her strategy. That's the strategy that she taught, for the people that she followed. And she's a great coach, loved her system, all of that. I made lots of money doing that. But I didn't make lots of money doing Facebook ads. I made lots of money working with her in different ways. But I lost a lot of money doing Facebook ads. Like I think I got one client. It was a less than ideal client. And I'm one of those people, if I go in, I go hard. Like we are going all the way. And it was at some point I was like, well, this is not working. And it's not that Facebook ads don't work. It's that for my customer and how they wanted to engage with me, they were not there. They just weren't there. And so I was paying for all these leads that were so not ideal, so not right. The calls, the strategy sessions were just
painful.
Because they weren't my right customer, because my customer doesn't buy that way. And so, but it was an expensive lesson learned. But had I thought about it less from the, oh, here's a vehicle and here's a way to earn money, and more from, does this really fit in A, how I want to sell, and B, how my customer wants to buy? And part of that was a test. I didn't know that my customer didn't like to buy that way. Exactly. Funny thing was my husband was like, your people are not there doing that. Oh, he told me,
nailed it.
Beginning, I was like, show you. Just wait. just
Yeah.
faith.
Yeah.
My marketing strategy was off.
Mm-hmm.
And so had I really known how to think about it from that perspective, I may not have made that investment as a phase 2, trying to find another way to be able to grow, right? So this is critical. These are writer downers for folks who are listening in. So as we start to kind of wind the conversation down, if you had one piece of advice for women who were listening and they're at this place where, you know what, I'm really ready to make a pivot and the time is now. I've got this call on my life. I don't know exactly how it's all going to come together, but I'm willing to commit and be who I need to become in order to be able to serve and create a successful business. What would be your advice to them at day 0? And it could be about anything. It doesn't even have to be about business. It can be about anything. But what's the advice? What do you wish you knew when you started? What's the word of encouragement for someone who's just looking to step over into the decision space?
Okay. First, view everything as an experiment. Don't attach. Like, just hold it lightly. There are my hands. Because what happens is so often we either let our enthusiasm or our fear take over. Mm-hmm. And then the enthusiasm can blind you and the fear can constrict you. Mm. And so if you just hold things lightly and say, you know what? I want to start a business. I want to do this thing. This is what I want to offer. Try it. Go do it. Don't build a website for it. Just who's going to be your ideal client, and go talk to them and find out if this is something they would like to do. Like, literally just go really soft and experimental. And then based on what you learn, pivot. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, that kind of worked, but this part didn't work. What's another way I could do that? Mm-hmm. So that's really my first and most important piece of advice. The other thing is get support. Yeah. You're really smart. You have a well of wisdom, but get support. It can be a group program. I think it should be a business, mm-hmm. Business program, mastermind, something. Mm-hmm. And you're probably going to have a little sticker shock, mm-hmm. Based, because it is an investment, but I'm telling you, that will pay off. Mm-hmm. And if it's some kind of a group program, you're going to meet other entrepreneurs. If it's a private coaching, you are going to have the attention, hopefully, of a really, really good coach, mm-hmm. who's like, all right, I see you. You can't hide in those other 10 or 12 people in that group. Like, I see you all the way. Mm-hmm. And so they're really pros to both. And, so I think trying to do it on your own or asking your husband or your best friend or your mom what they think, mm-hmm. is not business advice. Right. And I'm not diminishing or minimizing how smart those people are. It's just they're attached. Yeah. And that's not an experimental, it makes you attached. Mm-hmm. I mean, I finally had to say to my mom at one point, Mom, stop worrying about me. Mm-hmm. Stop. Like, I'm smart. I'll be fine. But she couldn't, and her stress was like stressing me out. I'll never forget my first year in business. I was in my office and she was in town. I lived in Minnesota at the time. And it's like my desk was here and she was sitting in a chair that was probably right about here. It was a much smaller office. Yeah. And I was trying to make phone calls and I was so self-conscious because she's just sitting and listening. And I'm like, you got to go. You got to go. Like, your energy is stressing me out. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to have a professional crew who is objective. They care about you, but they're objective. Yeah. So those are 2 things. Yeah. And I'm sure I have a million more things, but those are biggies. Yeah.
I love the idea of being unattached. And that will serve you. Being unattached to the criticism, being unattached to the praise, even, all of it's just feedback. All of it is directional. All of it says, do I go right or do I go left, or do I go straight or do I stop? Do I pivot? That's all it is. But there's something you're meant to do in the world, and there's some way that you're meant to make a difference. And I believe that the wings of grace carry us when we're about being a force for good. And when you can trust that, then no matter whether it's good news, bad news, or whatnot, there's still this kind of North Star that says, I'm going to work this out, you know? But I'm just like excited. I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful for you sharing just your thought leadership and where you've been and all of that. I believe on your site, if I recall correctly, do you have actually like home study courses and all of that for folks who are in phases 1, 2, or 3? That's correct, right?
I do, yeah. In fact, I have a home study course on how to set up your business design and really help you think through the factors and the elements for how to package and price your services. And then I also have this really cool program called Unshakable. I love it because it really helps you understand and articulate and own your value, because too many people, especially when they're starting out, they're like, yeah, you can hire me and I'll give you like 3 sessions a week. And, you know, it's going to be done in my home studio. And like they're not selling what the transformation or the outcome or what the real value is. And so Unshakable helps people articulate and really own their value in a way that their customers and their potential clients will really go like, yeah, that's what I want. They don't care how it happens. That's what I want, that outcome. So Unshakable is amazing. And I think that's all I'm sure I have other things. I also do business design workshops in New York City every quarter. And they're really cool, like where you can sit down and get a small group of women and me, like really like looking at your, you know, an aspect of your business that you can monetize immediately. So those are super fun.
So we'll put a link to Carolyn's website near this interview where it airs, and she's great. Follow her. Grow to the level where then you can work with her. But she's got lots of great tips and tools and resources that I totally believe will save you time, save you money, save you tears and heartache, and keep the dream alive, right? And that's really what we want. And so with that being said, I want to thank you guys. Hopefully it's been a great use of time. It's been a great use of time for me. I've got tons of notes and tons of pages here. But speaking for Carolyn and myself, we just want to wish you every success and happiness, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.